Hello, Facebook. So my name is Evie Burke. My company is One Insight Closer, and I am the mindset mentor and success coach there. And I help women entrepreneurs take their productivity to a new level. And while Facebook is building things up, I'm going to share this video a couple of places so that all of you can find it. So while I do that, let me just talk a little bit. Well, first let me find what I'm looking for. Let me talk a little bit about what we've done the last couple of weeks. So 2 weeks ago, we talked about the 3 lists to keep you productive and on top of everything that you want to be doing. And then And then last week, we talked about your ideal week and how your ideal week works with those 3 lists. And this week, just a minute, one more thing to do here, just to make sure that it is everywhere I want it to be so people can find it. All right. So this week, prompted by something I was thinking about last week, and then on Saturday I went out with a couple of friends and we saw Kyle Cease in Skokie, and he was talking about transformation, and he is a former comedian, and he had hit programs, hit comic, I don't know what you call it, but hit shows or hit I don't know what to call it. On Comedy Central, he had a couple of specials that did very well, probably 5 or so years ago. And he has moved into transformational work and coaching and things like that. But he still brings a good amount of that comedic flair to what he does. But in the best way possible, not in a poking fun at it in a bad way, but just, being lighthearted with it. So anyway, he ran a little bit long on Saturday night, and that was fabulous because he had just a great show. So I got home fairly late on Saturday night, and then on Sunday I go to church, and church is at 8:30, and my husband usually has to be there at about 8 o'clock for his commitments. So usually we're leaving the house a little after 7:30, so that made for not as much sleep as I would have enjoyed. I like my sleep. And it made me think about how a lot of times when we're planning out our to-do lists or we're looking at our ideal weeks or creating those, we forget about how we work, and we're just trying to cram things in and get as much done as we can. And sometimes ourselves take a back seat to all of that. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So I see I have 1 or 2 people here. So if you're here, I would love to know it. So, say hi below. And I would love to know what your motivation is for coming today and watching this video, whether you're watching the recording or you're watching it live. And what would you like from today's video? I mean, that's specifically for the people on live. What are you looking to learn today? And so, hi, Mary. I see Mary's here. Mary's here pretty regularly, so hi, Mary. So for Mary and anybody else that's on and maybe lurking, what are you looking to get from today's live stream or Facebook Live, I guess? So I'm going to talk about first something I think sometimes we overlook, or it kind of takes a back seat to all the things we have to get done, and that is our physical space. How is your physical space set up in a way that works for you? Okay, and Mary says that she's curious about the overlooked body and she knows that she has bad posture. So yeah, I'll talk about that a little bit later, some aspects of that. But for your physical space, and I guess that could go to the body too, like your chair. How is your chair working for you? How is your desk set up for you? I know from me, if my physical space is really messy, it's generally because there's something that's not working for me in that space. And so I'm actually going to give you a little behind the scenes here and show you a bit of my office. So if I can figure out how to switch this, it's hiding here behind my oh, if I move that, then you can't see if I hit that button. No, let's see, technical difficulties. Oops. You're seeing the light. There we go. Move the light. So here's my desk. This is my make do tripod. This is my little light that makes sure that I'm lit well. So I have two monitors. I have to my left my pens and stuff, so they're easy to find or to reach toward. I have my Oracle cards. I pull a card every day. I have my old phone, my journal, and then this is my monthly and my weekly list. So that's here. I usually keep it closed during the day just so that I'm not looking at everything I need to do and get frustrated. These are my pens that I use on a regular basis. I have Winnie the Pooh. My list for today, my notes for today, but my desk is pretty cleaned off. I have my orange juice glass from earlier today, some water, you know, so it's fairly cleaned off, and that helps me work. And I kind of have my catch-all here for, you know, the things that I need to reference or things to do. Now here, down here is kind of my, I don't know what to call it, but it's my things that keep me sane. So my bottom drawer is kind of a little bit of a catch-all. So I have business cards and stuff that I've met with people, just other things. But the drawers I spend the most time on right here I have my different paper punches. I have a label maker. I have a ruler. And all of my Post-it notes are in this drawer, and some baggies, checkbook. But all of my Post-it notes are here in any form. I use those all the times just to jot quick notes to myself to put them places. And then over here, I have binders that I don't use a lot, some other things that I want to have access to but maybe don't use as much. And up here I have the binders and things that I use more frequently, and you know, other folders and things that either need to be filed or processed, in addition to just some other folders and things that I need access to. Now this developed because I was using, you'll see what that is in a minute. I was using these, I don't have enough space here, like milk crates that I got. You know, I actually think I got these when I was in junior college. So these are almost 20 years old. And I did have these sitting here on my desk. I had two of them next to each other with the paper catch-all kind of thing above it. And a lot of the things that are in here were set this direction in here. The problem I had was the things that are in the folders, they just never, ever were where I could find them, because they just weren't, they're just not situated for sitting this direction. So I would end up with piles of paper all over the place. So I had to change that. Side note, the picture here, I actually got for Christmas in a white elephant. My aunt and uncle go to Canada quite frequently, and a friend of theirs, is doing photography. So I ended up with that picture, and I was thrilled. I thought that was great. So anyway, so that's my desk. It's a little bigger than I need it to be. I'm trying to get some space back here so you can kind of get a feel for it. It basically goes against that whole wall. It's a desk my husband built for himself when this was both of our offices, before he was working from home and when I was still working for a different company. So that's my desk, as space, that space underneath it. Now, what you don't see here, and this is kind of the behind the scenes part, is my desk was filled with just piles of things. My mother, when I was a teenager, used to call me her pile child because I had piles of things everywhere. You could tell where I had been sitting at the house, at home, working on something, because I would leave a pile of what I was working on right there, and a book, homework, paper. I used to cross stitch a lot, so some of that stuff might be sitting there. So yeah, it's still one of my habits. So when I was a little overwhelmed with everything that was on my desk, I got a clothes basket and I dumped everything in it. So hello to the clothes basket with everything in it. I've pulled out pretty much everything I really need, so most of the rest of it just needs to be sorted and put away. I see right now I have some papers that just need to be filed or tossed. So when it's off to the side, it doesn't bother me. But if it's on my desk, it does. And so that's one of the other things I want to say. I'm going to switch back here. Is if your desk being messy doesn't bother you, that's okay. You don't need to do anything about it, because just because somebody says your desk should be clear and free of clutter doesn't mean it has to be. Look at if it's causing you any problems. If it's causing you a problem or if it's bothering you, fix it. If it's not, and you know what's in your piles and it's not frustrating for you and you can find the things you're looking for, that's great. That's working for you. So that's just a little bit that I want to say about your workspace. Also, if you don't have a dedicated workspace for your business, I would highly suggest that you have one, whether it's a corner of a room or an office. Ideally, it's an office, but I know sometimes that's just not possible, when you're working from home. So if it's a corner, make sure that everybody in the family knows that that's your work corner and that they leave that for your work corner. All right. So now that's the physical. So let's talk about mental. And when I talk about mental, I mean things like when and how do you work? So when is the best time that you work? What are the things that, go into that? So for some people, they work, the best in the morning. Some people work best in the afternoon. Some people have a couple of times where maybe they work best, early afternoon, and then they have like another burst, maybe 10, 11 o'clock. Just figure out, what it is for you. Now, one of the things I think sometimes we forget about is how we're taking care of ourselves. And that goes into, the next topic, which is self-care. And what I mean by that is, I was at an event maybe a month or two ago where somebody was talking about, asking people how they work the best. And, they got everything from the time of day to knowing what they need to do. And those are important. But one of the things that I didn't hear, a couple of the things I didn't hear that I think you need to remember are you getting enough sleep? Because we're living in a world where sometimes we pride ourselves on, oh, I only got 4 hours of sleep last night and, I'm going great today. I had my 4 cups of coffee and now, I'm just moving right along like I slept like a baby. We play that little, how little sleep did you get game? And Arianna Huffington has a great book and a great story around that for herself and what the effects of being sleep deprived are. And Arianna Huffington, if you don't know, she is the founder of Huffington Post. I believe she's left that now, as she's gone on to found something more aligned with what she's passionate about now. But she has this story about how she was really, burning the candle at both ends. She was trying to be there for her daughter and do college visits with her daughter as her daughter was becoming that age of, looking at college, and also putting in a lot of hours at work. And she wasn't getting a lot of sleep, and, she kind of prided herself on that. And one day in her office, she wasn't feeling really good. And the next thing she knows, she wakes up, and I can't remember if she woke up when she was in the office or if she woke up in the emergency room or in the ambulance or whatever, because she had passed out because she was so sleep deprived. And she had hit her head on her desk and had bloodied her head. And, she talks about how that could have ended completely differently depending on how she would have hit the desk. So get sleep, take care of yourself, get sleep. I know sometimes it's not that we don't want to get sleep, but, we have other things happening and it's not possible. Figure out how to adjust your schedule or what's maybe going on for you that's preventing you from getting sleep, and get sleep. It will really help you be more productive and take care of yourself. The other thing is, what are you eating and how are you taking care of your body? Because I know for me, if I just eat a bunch of carbs for lunch or for breakfast, not a whole lot else, I'm going to be sluggish all day. That's just how I am. And I am not a nutrition expert, so I know a little bit about what works for me. If you know that your eating habits are some of the reason why you're feeling sluggish or not as productive as you think you could be at certain times of the day, talk to somebody who can help you with that. I know there is a great, and I can't think of her title, but her name is Dr. Michelle Ensman, and she is fabulous, and she can definitely help you with figuring out what's going on with your body so that you can be, I want to say productive, but that's not even what I mean, but so that you can really be taking care of yourself and feeding and doing things for yourself that promote your health. So the third one, and this is one that I've been kind of struggling with making time for, and haven't been making time for, and that's exercising. And it's taking care of your body and making sure that you're moving. And those three things, sleeping, eating, and exercise, they a lot of times are things that we kind of push off to the side and are, I'll do those when I have time. But they're really the foundation for everything that we do day in, day out, right? So make sure you're taking care of yourself. And also, kind of know if you're an introvert or an extrovert. So when you're planning your ideal week, know if you have a networking event where you're going to be mingling or talking with a bunch of different people, respect that you're probably going to come home and be tired, and maybe don't plan something for that afternoon that's going to require a lot of your attention. Plan to have some downtime. Plan to do something that doesn't require a lot of creative energy from you. And at the same time, again, taking this into account for your ideal week, look at, when are you planning your one-on-ones? If you're an introvert, planning your one-on-ones for 9 a.m. coffee or 8 a.m. coffee, that might be draining for you. Or maybe it's not. Maybe those invigorate you, but kind of know where you fall and play with it a little bit if you're not sure. Because sometimes introverts even with the one-on-ones, they might actually love those and it might, charge them up a bit. So just kind of know where you are with that. And know when you need quiet days. So I know if I've had several days of running, or if I have been gone at a conference for a couple of days, that I'm going to need some quiet time at home. So plan for those things. I also know that I'm a woman, and when a certain time of the month comes, I feel a little more sluggish. And that might be something Dr. Michelle could help me with, but I know for me right now, need to be okay with planning some other things or taking a little bit easier at that point. So just know your body and know its rhythms and know what works for you and pay attention. Sometimes we forget to pay attention. And, one of the things, and Mary mentioned this too, most overlooked for the body is, again, look at how you're sitting, how you're being in your business. And I know some days I'll get headaches and my husband will say, this used to happen a lot more when I was working down at the kitchen table. And he'd say, it's your posture. He's like, you're working at your laptop at the kitchen table on the kitchen chair. And so I'm hunched over like this, typing on the laptop, kind of hunched over. He's like, you need to sit up straight. So if you don't have a chair or something that promotes you to sit up straight, do that. Pay attention to how you're sitting up. You want to be thinking about, how did I hear it described one time? Like if there was a string that went from the base of your bottom up through your spine and through the top of your head, and if somebody took that string and pulled it, how would you sit? So, if you're like that marionette, somebody pulls that string, how would you be sitting? And so you're going to be sitting straight. Pay attention to whether your shoulders are hunched forward or whether they're back. You want to kind of have them rounded back. That's going to be better posture. And note where your keyboard placement is. So I don't know if you notice, my keyboard is kind of pushed back, and that's because right now, I'm using my desk for some other things, but my keyboard cable is long enough that generally if I'm going to be doing a lot of typing, it's in my lap, and that's a good height for me. So, notice how you can adjust things for your posture so that you're not, hunched over, and I would get tension headaches because of the way that it would, Mary says it was something that Dr. Michelle Ensman shared. I heard that years ago, Mary, so I think it's a common thing. I don't know who I heard it from, but I know I've heard it. I heard it years ago from someone before I knew Dr. Michelle. But yeah, so it does speak to her intelligence about the body, the fact that she shares that with others in some of her trainings and what she talks with people about. So the last thing I want to talk about, and again, if Mary or anybody else has any questions, pop them below. So the last thing I want to talk about is a bag of marbles. And yes, there is a point to a bag of marbles. So think of the energy that you have for the day as being a bag full of marbles. And as you go throughout the day, there are some things that happen where you give marbles away. So energy is expelled, energy is spent. Or there's some things that happen where it puts marbles back in your bag. So this is everything from the hunching over. That's going to take marbles out of your bag, right? Or if you're somebody who recharges by being at home, by reading a book or meditating, those are things that put marbles back in the bag. If you're somebody that recharges by being in a group of people, those are things that put marbles back in the bag. But then there's other things that take energy, even if it's not a lot, it kind of drains us a little bit. And that's the things like that door that sticks all the time. So when you go to leave, the door sticks and you're like, oh, stupid door. That's the things like waking up in the morning and finding out that, your kid or your husband left stuff out that now you're putting away and you're like, oh, I have to put that away. Maybe a nick in the wall that you see every day that kind of bothers you. So that was one of mine. In the bathroom a number of years ago, I don't remember what I dropped, but it fell against the wall and it nicked the wall and took some of the paint off. And it was right where, whenever I was going to the bathroom, I would see it and it just bothered me. So we had some water damage in the hallway, This was several years ago. And that hallway is colored the same as our bedroom and the master bath. So I asked my husband, could we just spend a little extra money and have him repaint the bathroom too, so it could take care of that nick and just a couple of other things in there? Sure. I mean, he was here anyway, it wasn't going to be that much money for him to do that small room. So, just the little things like that. What are the things the small things that maybe you can easily fix that take energy out of that bag, that if you spend the $50 or the $10 or the 20 minutes or whatever it is to fix that, will allow you to keep more of that energy in the bag for you. So just think about what those things are. And again, that goes to your physical workspace. So looking around in your office, what are the things where you walk in and you look at it and you go, oh, I need to take care of that? And what are the things that light you up, and how can you bring more of that into your office? Looking at when and how you work, how do you set up your days so that it's giving you more energy than maybe it's taking out? What are those things that you can do? How can you set up your day so you're taking care of yourself? And yes, that does mean when you're creating your ideal work week that you're making sure that you get lunch every day. And it means when you're going through your day, you make sure you get lunch every day, because those are things that are going to put energy back in the bag, right? And it means self-care. So right away, how much sleep are you getting? When you're waking up, how many marbles are you starting with in that bag, right? So if you're getting enough sleep, then you have your full bag of marbles. I'm trying really hard not to make a mental joke about, losing your marbles. But now that I've said that, maybe I can move on from that. But, when you're waking up in the morning, are you refreshed and awake so you have, your full bag, or are you starting with a little bit of a deficit? This also goes to the people you have around you. Who are the people that are supporting you, that you're reaching out to for help, or that you're spending time with? Are they people that light you up, or are they people that kind of bring you down a little bit? And that doesn't mean you have to cut them out of your life, but maybe you figure out some different ways to deal with them, or manage your interactions around those. So those can be very I can't think of the word I want to use here, so I'm just gonna move on from there. But if you want some help with some of those things, let me know. I'm happy to offer a listening ear and help you come up with any suggestions or ideas around that. So that is today's topic. How do you work your best? So again, looking at the physical, the mental, and the self-care, and thinking about, with those three things, what's your bag of marbles? How is that going? I'm reading a comment here, and Mary is saying, Mary's saying that she can confuse coffee with marbles. And yes, because coffee can be one of those things where, maybe you have 1 cup of coffee and that does give you some more marbles. But if you have 2 or 3 cups of coffee, it might start to have the adverse effect. And as Mary says, it might keep her from sleeping at night. So yes, again, pay attention to your body. I know some people can have coffee, they say, at any time of the day and it doesn't affect them. I'm not sure exactly where I fall on that. I try to stop having coffee before or anytime after noon unless there's something else going on. So just kind of know yourself and what needs to happen there. So what I would like to know from you, whether you are watching live or you are coming on later and watching this, is what is one thing, just one thing, doesn't have to be huge, just one thing that you can do this week to keep either more marbles in your bag or add more throughout the day. So one thing that will improve how you work, even if it's just a small step. And head over to the Facebook group, Productivity for Women Entrepreneurs, and share that there. And any questions that you have. We're getting a nice group of ladies over at Productivity for Women Entrepreneur that are supporting each other and sharing with each other. And I would love for you, if you're not already there, to join us. So that brings me to an end of today's or this week's Evie's Live, or Wednesday Live with Evie. So I hope to see you next week. You will find out about what that topic will be on Monday. And watch your email on Friday, because I have if you're on my email list, I'll send out the recording for this and a little special something for you. So watch that. Again, my name is Evie Burke. I'm the Mindset Mentor and Success Coach at One Insight Closer, where I help women entrepreneurs who are struggling with productivity and focus to up their productivity game, to become even more productive and have focus. So until next week, goodbye and much love.